This episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Blue Apron. Not all ingredients are created equal. Fresh, high-quality ingredients make a real difference. So it's important to know where your food comes from. Now, here's the deal. Greg's obsessed with his Blue Apron stuff. He got a little buffalo chicken sandwich. He got some kind of meatball polenta, and he is all about it. For less than $10 per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Blue Apron knows that when you cook with incredible ingredients, you make incredible meals, so they set the highest quality standards for their community of artisanal, I don't know how to say that word, suppliers, family-run farms, fisheries, and ranchers. Whether it's Japanese ramen noodles, wild-caught Alaskan salmon, or heirloom tomatoes, Blue Apron's bringing you the best. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/funny. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/funny. Blue Apron. Better way to cook. So the final topic of the day,
Okay.
I asked the audience for a bunch of questions for you, Pear, and we got them.
Okay.
You too can go to kindoffunny.com/gamescast topic, just like all these people did. Ask some questions and we'll answer them on a future episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. And as always, thank you to Steven Insler, the Patreon producer of the week, who we talked to at our Patreon Q&A.
He's legitimately alive. He emailed in a private thread. Thank you, Steven Insler, for confirming you are not dead.
Yes.
Because he's been.
Who's Steven?
Well, we have this tier to be the producer of the show, right, on Patreon, and he did it, and it's an expensive tier, and it just rolls over month after month, and he's never talked to us, and we're just like, did he die? Did he do it one month, and then his credit card is just getting nailed every time?
Maybe it's Shu.
He's been the producer of the Gamescast for about a year at this point.
Wow. You're doing an awesome job, man.
Yeah,
Good job.
So
Yeah.
super
Thank you,
awesome.
Steven
Thank you
Insler.
very, very much.
Glad to know you're alive and well.
All right. So
Amazing.
this question comes from Alex.
Okay.
He says, this is my question to Pear. It's a pretty long one. 20 years is a long time. I'm a good 7, almost 8 years older than that, but still, that's a hefty chunk of time. I myself have spent most of these 27 years engrossed in gaming, spending most of my time flipping through EGM, Game Informer, and other publications. Ever since the early 2000s, though, I've been spending my time on the internet, getting my information from there. You've seen the change happen, the slow shift from physical to digital. Sorry for the intro. I tend to be long-winded. My question is threefold. With the hindsight of the past and the experience you've gained, where do you think you've made mistakes, and what would you have done sooner?
Oh, okay. So professionally, right? Not mistakes in real life. We've made plenty of mistakes. We look at these guys. We let them go. we should have just locked the door and chained them down, and they would have
No,
had.
you cannot do a YouTube channel. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think there have been some mistakes where we didn't realize early enough what personalities really meant to IGN. And like we could have tried harder, and like there were always kind of there were financial realities that keep you from doing that, right? Like I would have loved to keep Cas Messina around, for example, but that was at a time where we just could not afford a team to like a big team and grow it and all that. So definitely people. I have lots of regrets with not having some other people around. When the .com market crashed, so this is like in the early 2000s, right? 2000, 2001. Advertisers no longer bought ads online. We took a portion of the site and moved it behind subscription. And included in that were the message boards. And so overnight, basically, we created a subscriber base of 100,000 people who would pay us like $30 a year, which was good. And honestly, that helped us weather a drought. Like to investors, future investors who would come in to and purchase IGN, it was, hey, the audience does care about IGN, and they would even pay for the content, which nobody did online back then. So it was a necessary step, but I think we killed a really important part of our audience at that point, like the community, right? Like you see the rise of Reddit and like the decline of the IGN forums in those days. Like they're very intertwined, and calling probably 4chan too, like some of these forums that popped up. And so, you know, we didn't know what we're doing. We're taking content, putting it behind a paywall, and I think we created this narrative for a couple of years that in order to get the best stuff on IGN, you got to pay, and there was an audience that was not willing to pay. And so we learned from that, right? Like now in this day where gaming sites are notorious for high ad block rates, right? And you can do the sledgehammer approach, and you could go out and you say like, you know what? If you ad blocks, you can no longer watch videos. Like you can make that technically happen. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that now because we know that that audience that is unable to pay or that is unwilling or doesn't think about unblocking your site, we know that that audience can be tremendously valuable today, tomorrow, in the future, right? These are the guys that share your content or support you or buy your t-shirts or come to your shows. And so those are some of the regrets and the learnings that have come from it. I'm trying to think of if, there's certainly games that I reviewed where in hindsight I would want to go back and change the scores. Always. And I may have done that. You can never prove it. We did. So at one point we changed our rating scale from, I think it was 5 Mario hats to like 5 stars. And then we went to a 10-point scale or something. Then we went to a 100-point scale. And like, I think I tweaked the numbers on some games and nobody will ever know.
That's awesome. I love that. The second question from him is, what would you say are your proudest moments from IGN?
Proudest moments from IGN. E3 1997, when we went in there and we covered E3 like nobody else, like around the clock updates, and like our site went nuts with activity. Like we shot up from nothing to being a big site overnight, and all the other guys were going like, whoa, hold on, but I thought we're gonna write when we go back, right? Like because it was the magazine business. They went to E3 for 3 days, then they went back to write. And like we did it all while at the show. So I was tremendously proud at just kind of like the volume and the experience and like the feedback beyond 300. Beyond 300 was freaking amazing. Like what you guys did at that show. Like, like I teared up multiple times during that. That was really awesome to just kind of see the power of an audience that we talk about commenters, right? Commenters on IGN are 0.8% of the audience, oftentimes. So less than 1% of the people who read a review actually comment on it. Small part of the audience. But when you take a fervent audience like that, you put them in a room, holy crap. I mean, that like outpouring of love and the reaction, like I got it. That's at the top of my list for sure.
That's awesome. And then the third question from him is, where do you see games media going? Do you think it'll split? Will we go down the more Entertainment Tonight route or long-form journalism route? Will there be a middle ground?
I think there's a middle ground. I mean, like definitely games journalism is going multi-platform, and that's what we're working on so hard, right? Like making sure that it's no longer like when you're on Facebook saying like, go to IGN to read the review. No, you're on Facebook, here's the review. That's what we want to do. And I think games media is going to go there. I don't think everybody has a big team like us and can make that happen as efficiently, but it's a no-brainer. It'll like when you're wearing your PSVR headset, the content should be in there. You shouldn't have to take it off and go to the website and look for it. And so long form is a real issue, guys. I mean, you know this, right? Like you've written some of our best long form editorial content. It's hard to finance that now when your principal monetizing factor are ads, because a really shitty piece that's written in 10 minutes can make the same amount of money as a very long, awesomely researched piece. And so we got to figure out how do you fund that? Maybe, like the Patreon route is a good, like, Danny O'Dwyer is doing, taking that route, that will keep long form journalism alive. It's more difficult for us to do that kind of stuff, but I'd love to solve that too.
Going off of something you were saying in there, a question from Chance Carter, are there any plans for IGN VR content in the future?
Yeah, so we actually have a YouTube channel. You're just setting this up. We have a YouTube channel. It's called IGN VR, and we host kind of trailers and kind of experiences that are done in 360 video. I don't think you can use the PSVR for it yet.
No, not yet.
But we do have an app on the PlayStation for IGN content. Free app. You can just watch our videos. And we would love to create a VR area in there where you can play the 360 content. And Sony has you can do this now with the kits. It's just development time that we have to spend. We've done some experiments. We bring 360 cameras to E3 and events like that now. So yeah, if people buy these headsets, and by all estimates, I think analysts are saying there'll be 2 million plus tethered devices by the end of the year. At like the 2 million level, and then all the kind of like Samsung VR and Google is doing stuff. It might be worth doing more.
And what's cool about it too, I saw you guys did that Mario thing where it's VR Mario, and even without a VR headset, you can just go on YouTube and look at it and kind of click and drag around the mouse, or use your phone and do the whole fake VR, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it's super cool where it's like it's the history of Mario, but through VR. So it's like you see Mario and you can go down into the underground and do this whole thing. Yeah. Very cool. Check it out.
Yeah, we'll do more.
or YouTube Mario IGN VR.
But you can't just put the 360 camera here, or you'll see
Kevin's sleeping.
Kevin's picking his nose over there, and
that's a big problem.
Who wants that?
VR content creators have been facing, where it's just like you need to develop content around that entire idea from the ground up, or else it's the same problem we're seeing with video games, where it's like you can't just take video game experiences and put in VR. You need to make experiences for it, and that's why we're far away from
We've
that.
done like Square. We've done a Square office tour when we went to Japan. We went to Square, and so you have a 360 office tour. We went to some strange Japanese cafes. I don't think we did the owl one, but do 360 content like that, and it's really neat.
Apology says, congrats again on the anniversary.
Thank you.
How crazy is it that your Reaction Guys meme is so big?
Yeah, we didn't plan for that one. People still bring this up. And I think I told you this. My wife works, she was half Japanese. She works for a Japanese company. And when I first went to like a company barbecue, like a guy came up and went like, ah! Like he just pointed at me and I'm like, whoa, what did I do? And he's like, like he did the pose from the Reaction Guys thing. And it just dawned on me like how far this thing has gone. Because he's not like a gamer. Like he doesn't know about IGN, but he's seen this in Japan before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just took 2 pictures, right? Like one at E3 when Nintendo was showing Pac-Man. Remember Pac-Man Versus? And we are all like, whoa, in the picture. And it was just 4 IGN guys, Cass Messina, Chad Chambers, our intern, and who else? Craig Harris. And then Corey D. Lewis took the picture. And then a year later, we had gotten tipped off that Nintendo was going to show Twilight Princess. And we may have seen the trailer before it was shown. And so we took another picture where we staged fake excitement. I mean, we were excited, but we were faking it. And then people put those 2 together on message boards, and they became big in Japan. To the point where like their anime, it's in a couple of animes, it's in manga. It's somebody sent me a picture from Akihabara Games store where it's like super sale, and it's like
I think that was me, because I remember when we were in Japan, like walking through and going down a staircase, and they had the manga one, and then they had the real one of you guys, and it's just that was like one of those weird things of
right?
trying to get when you get to IGN and trying to grasp who everybody is and what it is, and then they're like, oh yeah, and then the Reaction Guys, and you're like, no, and they're like, oh, well, sit down. Here comes a million message board links and all these different things trying to figure out what it is.
And well, then one day NHK called a Japanese TV station. They're like, "Can we interview you guys?" And like, I think you were actually in the shot.
I stood in for the one guy, the
like
intern.
Craig Harris.
No, I thought Craig was. I don't know what.
Sure. You were Chad, fake Chad. Nobody noticed. But like
funny.
they interviewed us on camera, and like one of the questions was, "This is amazing. What are you gonna do next?" We're like, "Well, we didn't plan this." Like,
what are you gonna do next? Oh, that's fantastic. Aaron Tremble says, out of the 4 kind of funny boys, which one surprised you the most with how they developed since day one? I saw you respond to this on Twitter and like, oh, why are you putting me in this position?
That is so mean.
So I'm putting you there. So instead, I'm gonna tweak the question.
No,
and
I
just
can
be more
answer that.
like, okay, go for it.
Development-wise, I would have never imagined that guy would be dancing on stage in spandex. Seriously, like who would have predicted that?
No one.
Like I
Not
would have
even me.
never. No, like you're a very serious guy. You care about what people think of you, and you were always the thinker, right? And you were always the guy who said, "Greg, don't pull me into that shit," right? Like let me do my things behind the scenes, and like you guys always had kind of gregarious personalities. And like for him to just kind of develop this way and like be on these shows and do this kind of stuff and really engage with the audience is freaking amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I don't know if you love it or not.
No, I do enjoy it. It was a learning process for me, and
but you just let go at one point.
Yeah, I did. I mean, because I feel like you adapt or die, right? Like it's I will always be a writer first, and I think that's what I'm best at. But I realized when we did Beyond, when I came on Beyond in 2009, so it was a couple years after it started, I had just realized that people really did. First of all, people think I'm like strangely funny, and I do think that like I'm really dry and intentionally try to be dry all the time. But people like that kind of stuff.
That's it.
And also, I just think that like I was amazed that people like, well we really care what Colin thinks. Like we actually like listening to Colin talk. We don't want to just hear him write or whatever, or listen or read his writing. And that's not everyone, of course. And plenty of people hate me, but I was like, yeah, I should embrace that and become better at it. And I think that I was. What surprised me about it was that I was actually somewhat natural at it. Like that was the thing that really surprised me. That like once I started doing things on camera, like we've talked about in the past, like the the idea, like the fundamental idea of doing a conversational video at IGN was actually my idea. Like, and that was we came up with PlayStation Conversation, a daily video where it was just like Greg and I sitting on a desk talking about something that happened that day, and it came way more naturally to Greg and I. But then I realized as time went on, and I think Tim can appreciate this, like. Then I realized like Greg and I need to be on certain sides of each other. If we start being on other sides, we can't do it right. And then our first take is always the best. If we ask to do second or third or fourth takes, it totally goes off the rails. We can't do it. Like there are certain things, and it started to develop me as like I guess it's more and more quote unquote personality. And I've just so I have let go, but I've also embraced it. I think that it's part of what it is today. But my writing, what gets me so happy is that a lot of proliferating my quote unquote personality has turned people onto my writing, and that's what and people are still like, when are you going to write again? When are you going to write again? When are you going to write again? And I will, and there are things in the works. Yeah.
You got a website. We can put it on there. But
so thank you. I appreciate
if you actually go back and watch some of your old videos, like I do, like you had no problem delivering an opinion or like kind of bringing that text content to life. You know. But it always felt like you were almost embarrassed that people cared. Like I see a lot of old videos where you're like kind of like embarrassed. Like if somebody cheers, you're like, whoa, you didn't know what to do. Whereas like, you know, this guy is like, shirt flies off, right? He goes crowd surfing.
I know what you.
He puts on the gold pants.
Well, I think that's why, you know, specifically with like, I think that's Greg and I always say yin and yang. I think that's why we work. And Greg and I were talking about this recently with our girlfriends where. I was like, I think we're the longest running duo in games, like for sure, like in games media. And I think it's just because we're different. Like it's Conan and Andy Richter. It's like whatever it is. It's, you know, it's
Cheech and Chong.
Keenan and Kel.
And Kel. I just think it works because of that. If I was like Greg or Greg was like me, I don't think we would have ever had this kind of success. And Greg would have been fine on his own, but in terms of our, and I would have been doing something else and been fine too. But in terms of our combined, like,
knowledge-based personalities, we fill each other's gaps. We always say,
yeah,
and we enjoy it.
No, but that kind of relationship, like Casamasina and I had that back on the N64 channel. Like, I mean, we still have it. Like every day when I drive to work, Matt calls me or I call Matt, and then we bitch about the world of gaming and everything, and we talk about everything, and it's like it sticks with you. Like once you find somebody you have that kind of connection with, it's like even if you went on to do different jobs in the future, you still have that connection. I think it doesn't go away.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
We should just get married. We should all just get married.
Trevor Starkey says, with your history in the ever-changing climate, where do you see the industry going in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
The games industry? That's a really big question. Oh, Jesus. Well, I mean, look, what is the X for?
NX. X is going to give it to you.
Oh, the NX. Oh, yeah, that's going to be an interesting device that I can put in my pocket. But no, I think that you can't predict it, first of all, right? I can pontificate here and say like, well, it's going to be all VR. It's not going to be all VR. I agree with you. I think there'll be different experiences, just like phones have not replaced the PlayStation 4 because the PlayStation 4 is fucking, you know, people are playing it. It's a big hit. I do think this is do or die for Nintendo as a hardware maker. You know, like we've heard it described as a reboot, where they're going back and they said, we made a terrible mistake with the Wii U. They were not going to say that, but the Wii U being this tablet that was tethered to your home, and like, I mean, I can't even take it to my bathroom. I don't know about you guys. Like, you can't go far away. Like that was a misstep. Right? They sold you on the concept of, oh, it's a tablet, it's a console, but then like mainstream users were like, I don't know what it is. And so I think the next device, it'll be crystal clear what it is. It'll be weird. But I don't know if it's going to be the leader of the market again, like with the Wii, right? But what do we know? Like the people who predicted that the Wii would sell over 100 million units, like, you guys should be running your own companies. Like, we didn't see that coming. We said, hey, once we played it, this is cool. But we didn't think people would be like, I don't care if it's not HD. I'm going to buy this thing. And I'm going to watch Netflix on it all day.
Well, who thought it was going to multiply by 4 what GameCube did?
Yeah.
You know? Like, and
insane.
And it's the same, it's the pontification about, and we were happy about it.
Yeah.
And I was one of the naysayers on this, and I'm glad about that. And I think Greg was too. And everyone's like, the consoles are dead. PS4 and whatever the next PlayStation and Xbox are going to be dead. And they were fucking wrong about that too.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's impossible to.
But the big question, I think we're going to know more when Scorpio comes out. Are gamers ready for the PC-ification of consoles, right? Where you have sliders in your game saying, oh, turn off shadows and increase the texture quality or whatever, depending on what size hardware you have. Like, are gamers in the console realm ready, or is that precisely what they wanted to get away from? Like, I have a feeling it's going to work. I think, like we all shell out so much money for new iPhones, right? And the entire iPhone product line fits into a single console generation. The entire iPhone lifespan fits into the Xbox 360 span. And like people spend a lot of money, and I think they're going to spend on these upgrades. If developers can nail that concept that games are infinitely playable still on the old machines without making you feel bad, I think we will see, consoles become more modular and developing over the future.
What do you think of, because you talk about Scorpio, which is, I think, a more quantum leap, it sounds like, as opposed to Pro. What do you think about PlayStation Pro? Do you think that it's going to do well?
I'm not sold on it yet. I mean, first of all, I have the white PS4, and it's so gorgeous, and I feel like design-wise, it's a little bit of a step back. No, I mean, like, I can see it as a replacement for the existing PlayStation 4, and so going forward, people are going to buy this, and people with HDR TVs, those that actually know they have one and will turn it on, get better visuals. But I don't think this is a new step in kind of gaming. I think it's more kind of like when the Slim came out in the past, right? Like it's a machine that replaces the other one, where it sounds like Scorpio is supposed to be, this is a second machine you could get if you have more dough, and you can still buy the older one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sold on it yet. I have one pre-ordered. I'm buying every PlayStation day one. It is my favorite console out of the consoles I have right now. Just it has the games like Uncharted that I want to play. But I'm having a lot of fun with the other two as well.
Crash Jordan says, what does a pair day look like at IGN?
Oh, God. A pair day. I get up at 6 a.m. yelling at my kids to get ready for school. But the way I do it, I have my whole house networked. So I say, Alexa, set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. And then the lights in my house flash, and then the kids all freak out and get scared. So I do have that. It's so awesome. Yeah, I can control anything. I can like call them right now and like speak through a camera and say, do your homework. It's so good. It's the police state. Like it's all true. Germans, man. And then I drive to San Francisco, and it's about an hour. And then, I get right into it. Like I talk to my boss. So my bosses live in New York, right? Ziff Davis. I got to make sure that we're doing well financially. So I crunch the numbers. But then I also get involved in creative discussions. Like, for example, I have a meeting scheduled for this afternoon. That's like the future of podcasts, right? Because I feel like we're at a turning point now where podcasts, we call them podcasts, this shows. And IGN produces a lot of them, and they look so ugly. Like GameScoop looks beautiful, right? But NBC Podcast Beyond, they shot in a tiny little podcast room because they were developed for audio. And at one point, when you guys were there, we said, hey, we need to also output those as videos, right? People were like, no, I don't want to wear pants. It happened. But now we're at a point where we're saying, like, well, if that's the kind of content we produce, how can it become special and look good and be something that works on YouTube?
And then, of course, turnkey, right? You only have so many people and so many resources. So how can you make it that the guys can sit down and go?
Exactly. A podcast is self-service, right? Like, Jose can spin it up and go, welcome. And, like, there doesn't need to be a cameraman in the room. Like, how do you still make that happen but make it look beautiful? So there are a lot of discussions like that where I get involved. And then, so the teams that I oversee are, I've got a sales team. They sell the ads. I've got editorial and video teams. They create the content. I've got a product and an engineering team, and then there's finance as well, right? And with product and engineering, you got to look at the future, and you got to say, the video player right now, what do you do with it? I know you love the video player. Like right now we're looking at 12 different video player solutions, and we'll pick one for the future. And so there are a lot of kind of meetings with all the different teams and making sure we go in the right direction. And then I complain a lot.
Yeah. Do you have to deal with Fran a lot anymore?
I do have to deal with Fran a lot. Yeah.
So habanero. Please look at Fran's closet. It's the best thing in the world. The final two questions kind of go together. 32-bit player wants to know, what makes a great game review? How do you think the way games are reviewed has changed since '96? And then the other one is from Throw7, who says, I'd love to hear what Peer thinks of his early review, e.g. his Mario Kart 64 review.
Okay. All right, good. So two things there. Did I review Mario Kart 64? I did. That's right. I was thinking Double Dash is Fran.
Throw7 would be wrong.
7.9
we'll never forget Double Dash here. Don't worry.
Okay, so let's start with the first thing. Sorry, it was what makes a good review. First of all, we get this all the time, right? Like we get people complaining saying, no, a review must be objective, and like you can't do that. An objective review is a spec sheet. You already get that from the publishers. A reviewer has to put something of their own in it, and it has to be abundantly clear what the reviewer likes and what they don't like, right? And so we're never going to assign like a guy who hates racing games to a racing game, right? So you pick the right people for the review, but there's got to be a spark of that person in the review. They got to make it personal, and they got to be able to tell the biggest audience possible in our case what makes that game special. And so we made a big change in the past where we used to break out graphics, 9.0, gameplay, 4.0, right? Presentation, whatever the fuck that was. We used to break all that out, and you had to you then put this out to the audience, and then you say, audience, interpret this toilet paper roll of content now. And they go like, well, this is a wrong review because 4.0 plus 9.0 does not equal 7.2, and therefore this review is wrong, right? Like we gave people all these different kind of metrics and these different kind of snippets of information and say, interpret it. And so what we did is we dialed back the length of a review because, quite frankly, there's an audience that wants the deep kind of experience, wants to know everything about this game. But there are a lot of people also who don't want anything spoiled and who just wants a quick opinion. Some people only want a number. I think you'd be surprised at the amount of people who just scroll down, because we do eye tracking, and just look at the number. And it's a huge number. And so you can't make a decision saying, get rid of the number because it forces people to read. It's like, no, they're not going to read. They're not going to read. They're going to ask somebody else.
Argument.
Yeah, they're going to ask somebody else, is this game good or not? And they'll say good. Great. Now I don't need to read IGN's review, right? And so what we came up with is this concept, a shorter review that is both text and video. We'll always try to do both. On Snapchat, we dial it back. We create a review card that gives you just kind of bullet points of what it is. But we also took things out that were easily misinterpreted. I don't know if you guys loved the pluses and minuses at the bottom of IGN reviews. Did you guys like doing them?
Not really.
I liked it better than the breakdown box.
Yeah, I agree that. But ideally neither.
So the breakdown box was nonsense, right? Because you could have a game with awesome graphics and really shitty gameplay. And it's like, so what do you latch on now? What do you latch on to? But the pluses and minuses, people sometimes took also as kind of like this has 4 pluses and only 2 minuses, so this should be a stellar game. Or this has only pluses, how come it's not a 10, right? And so again, it's like you're giving the readership kind of these things to make decisions with, but they're sometimes making the wrong decisions. And I think that became abundantly clear for us when too much water happened. Like, people did not read Callie's review of Pokemon, in which she says, this game is set on an island, therefore, there's a heavy focus on water Pokemon, therefore, it does not, like other Pokemon games, encourage you to create lots of different Pokemon types and play this game. And also, it's a pain in the ass to get around because of all the water, because now you have to take a spot up for surf, and, right, she explained it. And the summary, in a funny, snarky way, said too much water. Obviously, she does not think this game literally has too much water, right? But the audience took it as that and then said, your opinion is without value. And so what makes a good review is, I think, something that is not misunderstood by the audience, that is clear, concise, and to the point, and in the format that they want on the platform that they're on. And that's hard to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good luck.
Now, how do you feel looking back on your older work, like back when you
So
did
Mario Kart
reviews?
64, you know what? I think I underrated that game a little bit. I forgot what I gave it. Maybe it was like an 8.0 or even a 7 or something. Because I was pissed about a couple of things compared to the Super NES one, which I loved that game. I played 2-player so long, but I absolutely adored 3-player battle mode. And 4-player, which ran like shit if you go back and play it now.
Yeah.
But we played that so much. And so I actually think that game did more than we give it credit for. There are a couple of older reviews. I did not review Donkey Kong 64, but I should have told Casa Messina that you cannot give it whatever you gave it. Got good marks. I really don't like that game very much.
Bad.
And there are a couple like that in my history too, where I was really excited that a certain game was coming to the N64, where maybe I should have taken a step back and kind of let objectivity sink in a little bit more and say, like, it's not enough for that game to show up. It really has to be good. Whether that's a Wipeout, if you guys remember Wipeout 64 coming to the platform. There are games like that where, like, you're so excited to be playing it that you maybe lose sight of the fact that it didn't do as much as F-Zero or Wave Race or some of these games.
I'm trying to look at what you gave
Mario Kart 64? 7.8 or something?
8.1.
8.1, okay.
8.1.
Yeah, that may be one I changed.
Well, Per, thank you very much for joining
Thank
us. I
you.
thought this was an excellent episode. We could talk to you literally forever. So
And we have.
yes, and we should have you back sometime in the future.
You're welcome with us anytime.
Obviously.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys all for listening. Until next week, I love you.
It's a good episode.